Unbeknownst to anyone, Apollo has just breathed new strength into Hector. A few seconds ago, he was on the ground, dying, struck in the chest by Ajax, the great Greek warrior. From now on, the god's voice will resonate in his soul. At a signal from their leader, the Trojans return to the fray. They acclaim Apollo, who awakens an immense courage within them. Led by Hector, they close ranks and charge. Now, it is the Greeks who are retreating. When they see the son of Priam, escaped from death, his head held high, flying along on his horse, returned from the kingdom of Hades more powerful than before, they become frightened, and their hearts sink. By the boats, Ajax is fighting single-handedly, like an enraged lion. But he cannot avert disaster. The Trojans reach the ships. Torches blaze in the night. They look like hundreds of stars. Soon, the fleet will catch fire. Soon, the Greeks will be thrown into the sea. On the other side of the camp, Patroclus is at the bedside of the wounded Greek warriors. Upon the wounds of Ulysses and old Nestor, Agamemnon and Menelaus, he spreads powders which ease their dark pain. Patroclus is the cousin of Achilles, the son of Menethus, one of the Argonauts who accompanied Jason in his quest to find the Golden Fleece. As a child, seized by a terrible rage, he killed one of his playmates. He was then exiled to Phthia, where he was raised with the young Achilles. The two boys grew up together, and it was together that they went off to war in Troy. Before their departure, Menethus, Patroclus's father, asked his son to watch over Achilles and to always give him wise counsel. From the camp, Patroclus hears the rising clamor, the terror. The Greeks, his own people, are falling under the Trojan onslaught. He rushes to the next tent. It is that of Achilles. And the hero is there, his weapons nowhere to hand. He is playing the lyre. The Greeks are all about to perish, and he is playing the lyre. Desperate, Patroclus tears the instrument from his friend's hands. His eyes are full of tears. Achilles looks at Patroclus for a long time, this man who is crying like a child. He tells him that he looks like a little girl clinging to her mother's skirts. But he loves him as we love our dearest friends. Patroclus pulls himself together. He stares at Achilles as though seeing him for the first time. It's impossible. This man with the contemptuous face full of resentment and anger cannot be the son of the illustrious Peleus and the divine Thetis. He must have been born of a rock to remain unmoved by the ruin of the Greeks. In a gesture of desperation, Patroclus kneels before his friend and pleads with him. If Achilles is determined to dwell on his anger, why not let him lead the Myrmidons and lend him his famous armor and weapons? He, Patroclus, might be the saving light for the Greeks. Who knows if the Trojans, taking him for the divine Achilles, won't give up the fight? The noise of battle is getting closer. The sound of cries and clashing blades can be heard rising up from the shore. Achilles shakes his head reproachfully. He admits that his resentment towards Agamemnon is intractable. He won't forget the outrage. And he reminds his friend once again that no man has the right to rob one of his equals and deprive him of his prize because he has the power. He will not fight. Patroclus insists, can't Achilles let bygones be bygones? Can he not put aside his stubborn anger at this moment when the exhausted Greeks are falling to the fire and spears of the enemy? Can he not feel avenged by the disasters afflicting his people? Achilles takes pity on his friend. So be it. If he wishes it that way, let Patroclus put on Achilles' armor. Let him lead the brave Myrmidons into battle, since the Greeks, driven back to their boats, their hollow vessels, have been confined to a narrow strip of land. No doubt the Trojans, seeing him, will become afraid and retreat. Let him fight vigorously to save the fleet from ruin. But after he has driven the enemy far from the ships, he is not to seek needless glory by pursuing them to Troy, because then one of the gods will stand in his way, and he will not escape. Let the Greeks and Trojans die, roars Achilles, full of rage, and only Patroclus and Achilles survive to enter Troy with its mighty walls together. Patroclus has donned Achilles' armor and joined the Myrmidons. The Myrmidons. It is said that these ferocious soldiers were once ants turned by Zeus into men. Others claim that they take their name from King Myrmidas, whose daughter was seduced by the master of Olympus, who had taken the form of an ant. And since that day, the strength of Zeus flows in their veins. Whatever the case, one thing is certain. The Myrmidons are the most feared warriors in all the known world. Achilles walks towards them. In a firm voice, he orders them to obey Patroclus as they would himself. Carried by the wind, the news of the Myrmidons' return to the fray immediately spreads throughout the ranks of the Grecian army. Hope is reborn. All may not be lost. He has come back. This is what Cassandra whispers to her brother Paris. Paris shakes his head. Absurd! He doesn't believe this rumor. Achilles couldn't have taken up arms again. It's impossible. Even in Troy, everyone knows about the humiliation inflicted upon him by Agamemnon. It's a wound that can never heal. Cassandra insists. Achilles is leading his troops into battle again, and soon he will be facing their brother Hector. For the last 10 years, since the beginning of this interminable war, King Priam's eldest son has been Troy's shield. Without him, nothing, no one can save the city. The young woman grasps her brother's arm. Paris must return Helen to Menelaus. It is the only way they can hope to appease the wrath of the Greeks and avoid the tragedy that she sees approaching in an inevitable fashion. Paris flies into a rage. If he dared, he would slap the sister who only speaks to prophesy misfortune. There is no question of Helen leaving Troy. He will never allow it. He loves her, and the goddess Aphrodite herself is watching over their union. Cassandra struggles. She wants to say something, but her voice is suddenly drowned out by the screams of terror rising from the plain. Led by Patroclus, the Myrmidons descend upon the Trojans with the force of a hurricane. The Trojans, believing they are seeing Achilles, the divine Achilles at the head of his troops, immediately beat a retreat. Soon, there is not a single Trojan near the Grecian ships. Patroclus leaps forward, his heart bursting with prodigious valor. His sword slices off heads, breaks bones, corpses pile up around him. The Greeks have regrouped in his wake. They sweep away everything in their path. Resolute, Patroclus forgets Achilles' advice. He intends to pursue the retreating Trojans, to stop them regaining a foothold in their city. He charges and slaughters them one after the other. Suddenly, a chariot appears in front of him. A man jumps out, clad in a brass helmet and breastplate, and holding 2 spears. It is Sarpedon, the king of the Lycians, one of the most valiant defenders of Troy. It was he who pierced young Diomedes with his spear in the heart of the battle, as well as the king of kings, Agamemnon. Sarpedon, the son of Zeus and of beautiful Europa, whom the master of Olympus once carried off in the guise of a bull. Patroclus has thrown his spear and killed Sarpedon's charioteer. Now the 2 men rush at each other. On Olympus, Zeus shudders. He seizes the Aegis, ready to strike down the impudent mortal who dares to attack his son. When Hera, full of anger, restrains him. How can Zeus, the god of the gods, dare to rescue Sarpedon when he has prohibited all the gods from intervening in the fray? Is it true? Does Zeus want to spare a mere mortal, long since doomed by fate from a cruel death? Let him beware, because the order of things would be forever disturbed. It is an imperious and invisible power which all the gods must obey, even Zeus. Destiny. The moment when Sarpedon will be sent to the kingdom of the dead by Patroclus' spear has been fixed since the hour of his birth. This moment is coming. Zeus must accept what is written. Patroclus pulls the bronze spear from his adversary's chest, releasing both its tip and Sarpedon's spirit. Patroclus sets off in pursuit of the Trojans. 3 times he storms the walls over which Apollo keeps watch. Three times he is hurled back down. Hidden by a thick mist, invisible to the eyes of mortals, the terrible god of light comes to him through the brutal fray. He stops behind Patroclus. Patroclus can no longer feel his limbs. His vision becomes cloudy. He can hardly see the man walking straight towards him, Hector. With his spear, Hector strikes him in the lower abdomen and rams the bronze tip in up to the hilt. Patroclus hits the ground with a crash and sinks in an instant into the chasm of death. Hector takes the dead hero's magnificent armor for himself, as is the custom. From now on, he will continue the fight, equipped with Achilles' armor. Then he drags the corpse of Patroclus towards Troy. Immediately, the Greeks rush to defend the body. Menelaus is at their head, followed by Ajax. To abandon the body of Patroclus, to deprive him of the sacred rituals that accompany a funeral, would be to condemn him to the underworld. His soul would never find rest. What's more, thinks Menelaus, by saving Patroclus's body, they will earn Achilles' gratitude. The Trojan troops join in and a sinister battle begins over the corpse. As soon as the messenger crosses the threshold of his tent, Achilles knows. No one has dared to bring him the news. Old Nestor's son has therefore been instructed to tell Achilles of the death of Patroclus. Ravaged by grief, Achilles fills his hands with ashes, spreads them on his head, and blackens his face with them. Distraught, he pulls out his hair and rolls in the dust. Deeply moved, Nestor's son retires, leaving the warrior to his despair. A terrible lamentation rises up to the heavens and reaches the depths of the sea, where it is heard by his mother, Thetis. Thetis flies to him. She is now in Achilles' tent. She takes her son in her arms, and he tells her of Patroclus' death. He tells her of the loss of his sacred armor and his weapons. He tells her of his unbearable, interminable pain. Thetis listens to Achilles in silence. Then, in a soft voice, she reminds him that everything was done according to his own wishes. He wished that Agamemnon and the Greeks, deprived of his help, would be driven back and suffer the terrible penalties. Achilles admits that this is true, but at no time had he envisaged the loss of the person he loved most in the world, Patroclus, his double. From now on, he will live only to avenge his death. Hector will perish under his blows. Then Thetis reminds him of the oracle, a glorious but brief life. Achilles interrupts the sobs of his mother. He has made his choice. He knows what to expect if he returns to battle. He is ready to accept death the day that Zeus and the other gods decide that he must die. But before that, Hector will perish by his hand. Thetis holds back her tears. Before sunrise, she will be back with new armor, more splendid, more formidable than that being worn today by Hector. Armor forged by the god of the blacksmiths, Hephaestus, which no one will be able to pierce.